My neurosurgeon and orthopedic surgeon were present at the November 1987 myelogram test at St. Francis Hospital in Santa Barbara, California. They were planning to perform a discectomy or laminectomy on my L5S1 blown disc the next morning. But because I had lost 70% of the power in my left leg after the disc blew, they chose to perform a myelogram test to see if I had any spinal cord damage before surgery. A male X-ray technician and at least two other people, presumably support employees, were also present in the room. The iodine dye was injected into my spinal cord at a spot in the back of my neck while I was resting on the X-ray table. I was told to remain very still. The technician started moving the table and chatting to someone outside my field of vision. I'd been told that the table would be raised to allow gravity to carry the dye down my spinal cord. Before doing surgery the next day, X-rays would be obtained to assess if the spinal cord had been harmed. I immediately felt uncomfortable and out of control on the X-ray table. I felt like I was going to pass out and realized I couldn't move or communicate, so I tried to stay attentive and present in the room. I tried but failed to notify the X-ray technician. I started hyperventilating, and he looked away from his discussion to look at me. My eyes were rolling back in my head, and I struggled hard not to lose consciousness by looking at him. I noticed him seem startled, lean back to verify his finger placement on the control buttons, and then look shocked. I went unconscious. It seemed as if I had just closed my eyes, and when I opened them again, my perspective had shifted. I was now looking around the room from above the X-ray table, and the back of my head felt like it was pressing against the ceiling. Everything in the room was audible and visible to me, and there was chaos below. Some of those present were huddled around the X-ray table. Someone was on the phone calling for help. The room seemed very loud, and there was a sense of panic among those present. My death was a spectacle, and the X-ray room was unprepared for it. I felt completely serene and unconcerned, and the first thing that came to mind was, I'm dead. I've died if I'm up here and my body is down there. There was no angst, anxiety, or rage. It was simply a declaration of the situation as I looked down at the individuals operating on my body. I was truly oblivious to my own demise. I began talking to God quietly, as I always do, and just stated that I needed to return. I said that I needed to return home to care for my 3-month-old daughter and my 8.5-year-old son. I knew I'd be leaving my husband soon since he was emotionally and physically abusive, and that the children would need to be raised by myself. I requested to be returned to my body so that I could support my children. I was desperate to get back into my body. I gently asked God to take me back. An oxygen cart was promptly moved into the room below me, and an oxygen mask was placed on my face. A cardiac monitor was also brought in and attached to my body. I recall peering down from the ceiling at the small screen, which displayed a flat line that made a loud, monotone buzzing noise. I'm not sure how much time passed while I chatted to God and watched the sight below. "Stand clear," said the orthopedic physician, and he swung his fist with a high arc, landing on my chest. He swung it over his head again, and it fell on my chest. It did not harm me. I observed calmly from above, but the second strike made my view from above darken, as if my eyes had closed once again. I blinked, opened my eyes again, and was surprised to find myself looking up into people's faces and what was clearly the view from my own body. I was wearing an oxygen mask when I heard the bleep of the heart monitor indicating my heartbeat. I wanted to inform everyone that I'd been up on the ceiling. I began speaking into the oxygen mask. They told me not to talk because they needed to calm me down. It was almost too difficult to wait to tell them what had happened. I was overjoyed to have returned. When the oxygen mask was removed, I told the two physicians and everyone else there that I'd been on the ceiling and I watched you bring me back. I went to remark that I could hear and see everything that was going on below. The neurosurgeon is well known for his exceptional surgical skills, as well as his direct, no-nonsense demeanor. He seemed suspicious right away, but I started telling him what had transpired when I was in the ceiling, saying, "And you said, and he said, and then?" Both doctors were taken aback, and the neurosurgeon stormed out of the room, exclaiming, "I'm not going to stand here and listen to this." I recall the orthopedic surgeon holding my hand and reassuring me, but no one would let me talk about what had just happened. During my 4-day hospital stay following successful back surgery, none of the support workers would answer any of my inquiries when I was transferred to my room. My husband laughed at the story, claiming that it couldn't have happened because no one at the hospital would acknowledge to it. Even during my post-surgery follow-up visits, neither doctor would share what happened in the X-ray room with me, presumably due to legal ramifications. When pressed, the neurosurgeon rationalized the issue by claiming that I had an allergic reaction to the iodine used in the myelogram. I was aware that it had been caused by human mistake, but because I had no intention of pursuing legal action and couldn't get anyone to validate the NDE, I eventually chose not to speak about it with anyone. I never forgot about my near-death experience. I truly treasured the event and was grateful for the opportunity, but I never mentioned it to anyone until nearly 10 years later. I understood that reading my tale would benefit someone else's dying mother, so I shared it to a Christian nurse friend of mine. It did comfort her, and as we talked about the NDE, she confirmed that some doctors are instructed to use precardial thump as a last resort to save the patient's life if they don't have access to a defibrillator unit, because the hit can shock the patient's heart into beating again. I knew that I had seen the orthopedic physician arc his fist to restart my heart, and this confirmed to me that the NDE had occurred. I've always felt a great connection to God, even as a child, and this NDE experience just strengthened the relationship. I no longer fear death, and I'm looking forward to leaving this world and entering whatever comes beyond. I experience the serene peace and happiness of what exists beyond death. I feel God gave me the opportunity to return to my body and live out my life further, to raise my children, and to sort out many of the kinks in my life path, which I have happily completed over the past 20 years. I believe I'm here for a variety of reasons, some of which I'm currently aware of, and others that God will reveal to me when the time is appropriate. I strive to have a positive influence in the lives of my family and friends, as well as in my community and in the world. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here. Every day, I like living my life. I'm known as a positive, optimistic, and happy wife. I divorced 2.5 years after the NDE and married my current husband 2 years later, who is truly a wonderful gift. Mother of 5, his, mine, and ours. Businesswoman and employer. Community volunteer. Rotarian, Rotary Club motto, service above self, and most importantly, joyful Christian. Life is good, and I'm glad to be here until it's time for me to leave and fully experience life after life.